Your person is carrying a secret, and it's heavier than you know. Wait, pause for a second. Something quiet, something almost invisible has just shifted, and you probably can't name it yet, but a part of you already feels it. Somewhere out there tonight, your person is sitting in a room full of noise, surrounded by people who think they know him, and someone just said your name out loud. Not in a dramatic way, not in a loud way, just casually. The way people mention things they assume don't matter anymore. But it landed differently than anyone in that room realized. It landed in a place he's been pretending was sealed shut. And here's the part that makes this moment matter. He didn't react. Not visibly. He just got quieter, took a longer sip of his drink, looked down at the table for half a second longer than he should have, and in that small, almost invisible pause, something moved inside him that he wasn't ready for. If this message speaks to your heart, comment, "I receive this love," like the video, and subscribe for more. Now let me take you into that room. Because the setting matters more than you think. It's a weeknight, nothing special. The kind of night people pull together at the last minute, because nobody wants to go home and sit with their own thoughts. There's music playing low in the background, the kind he doesn't really listen to but tolerates. Someone's laughing too loud at a story that wasn't that funny. The lights are warm, dim, that soft amber that makes everyone look softer than they really are. He's there because being there is easier than not being there. That's the truth he hasn't said out loud to anyone, including himself. He's been carrying something for a while now. Not heavy in an obvious way. Heavy in the way unspoken things get heavy. The kind of weight you don't notice until someone touches the exact spot where you've been holding it. And tonight, without warning, somebody touched it. The way it happened was so simple. Someone, a friend, a cousin, somebody who's known him long enough to speak honestly, leaned back in their seat and said something about you. Maybe they brought up a memory. Maybe they asked a question he wasn't ready for. Maybe they said the thing nobody else has had the courage to say to his face. Something like, "You know, I always thought she was different from the rest." Or, "I don't think you ever really got over her." Or just your name said, in that gentle, knowing tone that strips away every excuse he's been hiding behind. Stay with this, because there's a deeper emotional layer here, and it's the part he's been avoiding for longer than he'd ever admit. What that person said wasn't cruel. It wasn't meant to wound him. If anything, it came from love, from someone who's watched him from the outside and seen what he keeps trying to bury. But honesty has a strange weight to it. When it comes from someone else's mouth, it lands harder than when it comes from your own. Because you can argue with your own thoughts. You can talk yourself out of your own feelings. But when somebody else says the thing you've been avoiding, calmly, plainly, without theatrics, there's nowhere left to hide, and he felt that. He felt it land in his chest like a stone dropped in still water. The ripples didn't show on his face. They never do with him. But inside, something started moving that he hasn't felt in months. Maybe longer. He didn't respond right away. He laughed a little, the kind of laugh people use as a shield, changed the subject, asked someone else how their week was going. But the conversation kept going on without him. He was still sitting there, physically present, but his mind had already drifted to a place he hasn't let himself visit in a long time. A place where you still exist exactly the way you used to. Untouched. Real. Closer than he wants to admit. This is where things quietly began to shift, and most people watching wouldn't have noticed. But he noticed. He always notices, even when he pretends not to. He ordered another drink, not because he wanted it, because his hands needed something to do, because his mind needed something to dull. There's a particular kind of drinking that isn't about celebration or escape. It's about delay, about pushing back the moment you have to feel something fully. He's been doing that a lot lately, pushing things back, filling the spaces where you used to be with anything else he can find. And here's what he didn't expect tonight. He didn't expect your name to feel the way it did. He thought he'd built up enough distance, enough time, enough excuses. He thought when somebody mentioned you it would just feel like any other memory, slightly tender, mostly settled. But it didn't feel settled. It felt alive. It felt like something still in motion. Something still unresolved. This is where understanding slowly begins. There's a song that started playing right around that time. He probably wouldn't have noticed it on a normal night. But tonight, his nervous system was already cracked open by what was said, and the song slipped through. Maybe it wasn't even a song you two used to listen to together. Sometimes it's just a feeling, a tempo, a tone, a particular way a voice carries that pulls a memory up from the bottom of you. And suddenly he was remembering something specific. Not a big moment, a small one. The kind you don't think you're going to keep, and then you do. Maybe it was the way you laughed at something he said once when you were both tired and the world was quiet. Maybe it was the way you looked at him when he was telling you about something that mattered to him, and you were actually listening. Really listening, not the way most people pretend to. Maybe it was the way you said his name. Some people say names the way you'd toss a coin. You said his like it had weight, like it meant something. And he forgot, for a long time, what it felt like to be heard like that, until tonight when somebody else's words made him remember. What happened next was subtle, but it mattered more than he realized. He got quiet in a different way. Not the social quiet of someone tuning out a conversation. The deeper quiet of someone realizing they've been wrong about something for a long time. There was a thought sitting on the edge of his mind, and he kept trying to push it back, but it kept coming forward. The thought was simple. It was, maybe I let go too quickly. That sentence has been waiting for him for months. It's been crouched in the back of his head, patient, waiting for the right moment to walk into the light. And tonight, in a room full of people who don't really know him, it finally stepped forward. He didn't say it out loud. He's not the kind of person who says things like that out loud, but he felt it sit down inside him like a guest who's planning to stay a while. And once a thought like that arrives, you can't unfeel it. You can ignore it. You can drink past it. You can scroll past it. But it's there now. It's part of the room. You don't need to force this, just feel it. Because what he's going through right now isn't dramatic. It isn't a movie scene. It's the slow, quiet kind of emotional unraveling that happens when somebody finally stops running from the truth they've been outpacing. He started replaying things. Not in order. Memory doesn't work in order. It works in flashes. He thought about a conversation you two had once, maybe near the end, maybe somewhere in the middle, where you said something honest, and he didn't know how to receive it. He brushed it off at the time, or he made a joke, or he changed the subject. He has a habit of doing that when something gets too close to the bone. And tonight, sitting in that warm-lit room with his second drink in front of him, he remembered exactly what you said. And he remembered exactly how he failed to meet you in that moment. That's the kind of memory that doesn't leave you alone. The kind where you can see your own behavior with a clarity you didn't have at the time. The kind where you finally understand what the other person was really asking for, and you realize you didn't give it. Not because you didn't care, but because you weren't ready. And being not ready and caring at the same time is one of the most painful things a person can experience in retrospect. This is the part he didn't see coming. Because here's what the third party's words exposed, and this is the layer beneath the layer. They weren't really telling him anything new. They were telling him something he already knew, but had refused to look at directly. The honesty wasn't an accusation, it was a mirror, and he caught his own reflection in it for the first time in a long time. And what he saw wasn't comfortable. He saw a version of himself who had been telling himself a story. The story went something like, "It wasn't the right time. We weren't on the same page. It was better this way. I had things to figure out." And those things might have even been partially true. Most stories we tell ourselves are partially true. That's why they work for so long. But underneath the partial truth was the bigger truth he kept skipping over. The truth that you were rare. That what you offered him wasn't something he was going to find easily again. That the part of him that pulled away wasn't wise. It was scared. And this is where things isn't loud, but it changes everything. He took another sip, looked around the room, saw the people he was with the way you see people when you're suddenly far away from them in your head. They were laughing about something. He smiled, automatically, the way you do when you're not really there. And he noticed, with a kind of strange clarity, that nobody in that room knew him the way you did. Not even close. He's surrounded by people who know his surface. The version of him that's easy. The version of him that performs well at dinners and remembers birthdays and tells the right kind of stories. But the version of him that you knew, the tired one, the unsure one, the one who said things at 2 in the morning that he wouldn't say at noon, that version was sitting alone tonight, even with all those people around him. That recognition hit him quietly. It didn't crush him. It just sat with him. The way certain truths do when they finally arrive on time. And this is where the deeper feeling started to show up. Not regret in the dramatic sense. Not the kind of regret that makes someone fall apart. The grounded kind. The adult kind. The kind that doesn't ask for a redo so much as it asks you to look honestly at what you did and what it meant. He started to understand in a slow and careful way that he hadn't lost a person. He'd lost a particular kind of presence, a particular kind of being known. And those don't grow on trees. He knew that now. He'd been pretending he didn't know it for a while, but he knew it. And this is the part he's still trying to understand. What does he do with this feeling? He's been here before, briefly. Late at night sometimes, when his guard is down. He's caught the edge of this thought and pushed it back. Tonight, he can't push it back. Tonight, it's in the room with him. Tonight, somebody else gave it permission to exist by saying it out loud. He thought about reaching out. The thought arrived without dramatics. It was just there, hovering at the edge of his mind. Maybe I should say something. Not a grand gesture, not a long speech. Just something. A small acknowledgement. A hello. I was thinking about you tonight. But almost as soon as the thought arrived, the resistance arrived too. The familiar voice that says, "It's been too long, she's probably moved on. What would I even say? What if I make it worse? What if she doesn't want to hear from me?" That voice has been winning for a while now. It's been keeping him quiet. It's been keeping him safe. And tonight, for the first time in a long time, that voice didn't sound as convincing as it used to. Because the cost of listening to it had finally become real to him. He could see the shape of the cost now. He could see what it had bought him. A room full of people who don't know him. A drink in his hand he doesn't want. A song playing in the background that's pulling up memories he tried to file away. If you've felt this shift too, you already understand. There's a moment where the cost of staying silent becomes louder than the fear of speaking. Most people don't reach that moment quickly. They circle it for months, sometimes years. He's been circling it. And tonight, he came closer to it than he has in a long time. He didn't reach for his phone yet. He's not there yet. That's the honest truth. But something inside him moved tonight that hadn't moved in months. And once a thing like that moves, it doesn't go back to where it was. The shape of his thinking has changed slightly. The story he tells himself about you has cracked, just enough to let some light in. And light, once it's in, has a way of finding the corners. What he's beginning to realize is that the way he handled things before came from a version of himself that didn't know yet what he was walking away from. That version believed there would always be more time, more options, more chances to circle back. That version believed feelings could be paused and resumed at convenience. That version was wrong. He knows that now. In the quiet way you know things you can't unknow. And this is the layer underneath the regret. The recognition that what was real didn't go away just because he stopped tending to it. It just went somewhere else. It went into you. It went into your evenings. It went into the spaces between his memories of you. It kept living without his attention, the way real things do. There's an old line, something close to the heart knows its own bitterness, and a stranger does not share its joy. That's where he is right now. There's a part of his heart he hasn't shared with anyone since you. He's tried. He's gone through the motions, he's met people, he's had conversations. But that particular layer of him, the one that opened up around you, has stayed closed. And he understands tonight, more clearly than he has in a long time, that it's been waiting for something specific. Not just any reopening. A particular one. Stay with this, because here's where the perspective shift settles in. He's not sitting there building a fantasy about you. He's not romanticizing what you had. He's actually doing the opposite. He's seeing it more accurately than he did before. He's seeing the parts that were difficult too. The misunderstandings. The places where he wasn't enough. The places where neither of you knew how to ask for what you needed. He's seeing it whole. In a way he couldn't see it when he was inside it. And the wholeness of it is what's getting to him. Because the difficult parts were the parts where something real was being built. He just didn't recognize it as building at the time. He thought it was breaking. Tonight, he understands that some things only feel like breaking because they're growing into a shape you don't have words for yet. If this resonates, let it settle in you. Don't rush it. Don't try to make it mean something it doesn't mean. Just let it sit. What's happening in him tonight isn't a decision. It's a softening. The hard edge he built around the memory of you is wearing thin in the warm light of that room. He's not promising himself anything. He's not making vows in his head. He's just letting himself feel something he's been refusing to feel for a long time. And that's actually the most important thing he could be doing right now. Because action without feeling is hollow. The kind of action you'd want from him isn't the kind that comes from impulse. It's the kind that comes from finally being honest with himself. And honesty, real honesty, takes longer to develop than people think. The night went on around him. Conversations turned to other things. Someone told a story. Someone left early. Someone ordered food. He stayed in his seat, half present, half somewhere else. And in that somewhere else, something quietly took shape. Not a plan, not a strategy, a clarity. A clarity about who you were, who he was, and what the difference between the two timelines is. The one where he keeps avoiding this, and the one where he doesn't. He doesn't know yet which timeline he'll choose. That's the truth. Real change doesn't announce itself the night it begins. It walks in quietly, sits down, and waits to see if you'll let it stay. Tonight it walked in, tonight it sat down. Whether he lets it stay is a story still being written, but the door has been opened. And once a door like that opens, even halfway, the air in the room changes. You should know this. You don't have to do anything with this information. You don't have to wait by your phone. You don't have to send a message you weren't going to send. You don't have to change anything about your night. The point of this isn't to put you in a posture of waiting. The point is for you to understand quietly that the silence between you and him hasn't been empty. It's been full of things he's been working through alone. And tonight, somebody else's words started a conversation inside him that he's going to have to finish on his own time. There's something gentle and almost spiritual about timing like this. Not in a forceful way. Not in a way that asks you to believe in anything specific. Just in the way that some moments arrive when both people are finally ready to receive them, even if they're in different rooms when it happens. Tonight wasn't random. The person who said your name in front of him didn't know what they were doing. They were just being honest. But honesty has a way of arriving at the exact moment a person is ready to hear it. And he was ready, even if he didn't know it 5 minutes before it happened. He'll go home tonight. He'll close his door. He'll sit in the quiet of his own space and feel the weight of what got stirred up. He won't have answers right away. He might even try to talk himself out of what he felt. That's normal. That's what people do when something cracks open. They try to seal it back up. But the seal won't hold the way it used to. He'll know that. And slowly, over the coming days, the truth he glimpsed tonight will keep finding him in small moments. In a song. In a stranger's laugh that sounds a little like yours. In the way light hits a room at a certain hour. He'll keep being reminded, until reminders aren't enough anymore. Until he has to do something with what he's feeling. That's the journey he's on now. Not because of you. Because of himself. Because of the part of him that's tired of pretending he's okay with how things ended. Because of the part of him that's finally ready to look at his own choices honestly. And what he's beginning to realize now is something he can't walk away from anymore. Not this time.